Yes, you're welcome once again. Let us today look at data types in database. And data types in database are vital when you're creating a database table. Previously, we had the introduction to database. We talked about the database types. So now today, let us look at the data types that we always base on when creating database tables. The first data type we use to create a database table, we have text, which is the alphabetic or numeric characters that are not used in calculations. For example, names, product IDs. We can look at the index numbers, registration numbers. So all what we use basing on text, which cannot be used in calculations when creating database tables, we always use text to create such fields. The second data type, we have long text, or sometimes called memo. These are alphanumeric characters, which are in most cases longer than the text. They can have descriptions. You can format them. You can have paragraphs with some formatting features like bold. You can apply italic. So with long text or memo, you can have characters more than or longer than 255 characters compared to text. So that is what we call them long text, or what we call memo when you're creating a database table. The third field is number. This consists of numerical values that are used in calculations, except for monetary values. That is when you're using currencies for the data types. For example, you might be having a table that consists of numerical values, say 10, 14, which will not consist any monetary value or currency symbols. So we always use the number data type when we are creating a database table. Then when you look at the next data type, we have date, stroke time. This data type is used when you need to enter a date or time. For example, we might be having a table that consists of a field, say date of birth. So when you're creating such a field that is date of birth, the data type that we use to create such a field is date stroke time. You can even consider selecting the format of the date, as we shall see when creating our database tables. So date or time is always used when you need to enter date or time in a database table. Then the next data type is recurrency. This data type is used when you're dealing with monetary values or currencies that need to be entered into the database table. So whenever you're dealing with currencies that will have even currency symbols, we always base on currency as a data type. So contrary to currency, when you look at numbers, numbers have no monetary values, which means you will not include currency symbols on them. But when you look at data type currency, this is when you can include symbols like a dollar symbol. You can include the Ugandan currency symbol basing on a certain country. So that is the use of the currency data type. So when you're creating such a field that will contain monetary values, we always base on currency data type. The next field is AutoNumber. This is a unique numeric value that Microsoft Access will automatically insert when a record is added. For example, AutoNumbers can have different formats basing on how you want your database to be. You can have, say, numeric values, but those numerical values are always unique. They will not repeat anywhere. So we always use AutoNumbers. They are incremented by one number basing on how you want it to be populated in the table. For example, you can have 1, 2, 3, so it is incremented by 1. So we always use AutoNumber as data type. The next data type is the Boolean value. That is, we always talk about it as yes or no, or sometimes we call it true or false. These ones are also used in fields that can hold one of the two possible values. You either consider it to be yes or no, or you want it to consider it to be as true or false. It also appears as a check mark box, which one can use to select a choice when the field requires either an option of yes or no. So that is when we use the Boolean value or Boolean values, that is yes or no. The next data type that we also consider, we call them all the objects. Those are object linking and embedding objects. That is when you're going to deal with inserting some pictures in your database table, or you're dealing with the sound. So there are sometimes when we want to include pictures, or want to include sound in our database tables. So the data type that we use is all the object. That is what we use when we're creating such a field that will contain a picture or sound. The next data type, we have hyperlink. This one is used when an email address or hyperlinks are required in the table. It also provides a single click access to a web page through a uniform resource locator. So when you create a field, for example, you're having in your table, the field is email. The suitable data type to use is hyperlink. So you will not select data type text, because according to your email, you know how emails appear. For example, if you look at my email down here, it has computer_uganda@gmail.com. So when you're including such characters in your table, the suitable data type to use is hyperlink. When you consider to use text, you will not have these symbols included. There is this dot, so you cannot consider text as your data type. So the suitable data type to use when you're creating search, or when you're entering records that will include characters like this or a symbol like this, we always use hyperlink. The next data type is attachment. This option allows the user to attach one or more pictures to the record. So you might be having some, for example, you're dealing with the employees and you want to include, or you want to attach a photo of every employee. You can look at using it as your data type when you're adding such records that will have pictures for some employees, or it can be students. So we use it to deal with the such data types. So whenever you're creating tables or database tables, these are some of the data types that you have to consider when you're creating such tables. So always create some simple tables to see how each data type work, such that you can be able to create database tables with a lot of information which will not be disturbing you, or when you need to trace out some records, especially when you're filtering. That is when you're using queries, you're able to identify different records when you're dealing with your tables, or when you're dealing with your queries, you're dealing with your forms, or when you're dealing with the reports. So those are some of the data types that we use when creating database tables. The next time we meet, we'll now see how to deal with all these data types according to database when you're creating them in your table. So let us end here. I beg that we always follow and not to forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel Computer Elites Uganda, such that you can get more information about database, and then we move on. Thank you very much. Let us meet next time when we are looking at creating database tables. Thank you.